What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then just welcome to my channel. Girl, have a seat. Subscribe, okay? Subscribe. You will not be disappointed. This video, as you can tell by the title, is another true crime story about a couple by the name of Cameron and Janice Hooker, who kidnapped and held captive a young lady by the name of Colleen Stan. They had her for a total of 7 years. They kept her in a box. The story is referred to as the girl in the box. Duh. Like, I'm sure you get the relation because you smart and you was kind and you was intelligent, okay?
You smart, you loyal, you're grateful. I appreciate that. Go buy your mama a house.
This video is featuring the new ABH Norvina palette. If you're interested in hearing the story or seeing how I achieved this look, and just keep on watching. Let's not pay so much attention to what's going on up here and more about what's going on down here. We have a lot to unpack with today's video, and I'm just hoping the video isn't too long, so I probably should stop talking and just get right into the story. In 1977, 20-year-old Colleen Stan, who considered herself an expert hitchhiker, and this is back in the day when I guess hitchhiking was a normal thing. So anyway, she considered herself an expert hitchhiker, and she thought that she was pretty much good at telling the safe rides from the not so safe rides. On this particular day, she had already turned down 2 rides from people who just look kind of sketchy, right? The third car that pulls up on her has a young couple, a nice, wholesome looking little family. They have a baby. And so she's like, I guess they look pretty safe. This is the one. So she hops in the car with them and lets them know that she is headed to surprise her friends in Northern California. They don't know she's coming at all. She's currently living with her roommates. The roommates know that she's going to visit the friends, but the friends are not expecting her. And little does she know, this couple has been looking for someone to kidnap all day. So they're like, perfect. You're not being expected. You're young. Get on in, girl. The couple is 23-year-old Cameron Hooker and 19-year-old Janice Hooker. They're married. I mean, obviously, they have the same last name, right? Everything seems normal. So they stop at a gas station, and Colleen is like, oh, perfect. I can go pee. Now, this is when Colleen's intuition kicks in. She's like, something told her to just flee, to just go out the window and take off running and never look back. But she doesn't listen to it. She's like telling her inner self, girl, you're tripping. They got a baby. They would never. So she does not listen to her intuition. She gets back in the car, and upon getting back in the car, she notices this box that was not there before. So she's like looking at the box like, what is this? The car takes off, and not too far down the road from where they stopped at the gas station, they come up on this little dirt road, and the wife is like, oh, babe, isn't that the road? And he's looking like, yeah, it is. So they veer off onto this dirt road and roll up on this creek. The mother gets out with the infant, and they walk down to the creek, checking out the scene. They don't bother to look back or anything. They just walk towards the creek. Meanwhile, Cameron hops out the car as well, and Colleen doesn't know quite what's going on, but at this point, her spidey senses have given up. They're like, girl, you ain't listened the first time. So she's sitting in the car just checking it all out, just waiting on him, I guess, to get back inside the car. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Cameron opens her car door and approaches her with a knife. He holds it to her throat. He then binds her hands, puts a blindfold over her eyes, and then gags her mouth. Takes the box that was sitting on the seat that wasn't there before, places it over her head, and it locks like with a little tiny padlock. And Janice pretty much like, bitch, what the At this point, she's thinking that she still has a chance, because she's like, okay, the woman is still there. She's thinking, the woman is going to come in and save her and be like, what are you doing? That's like the most cliche kidnap trick, like to have a woman, because I guess as women, we feel like we're going to stick together. They're going to have your back. But she then hears Cameron call her back to the car like, all right, babe, it's done. And so she realizes at that point, like, oh, ain't no unity. None. The woman is, in fact, in on this. They arrive at their destination and Colleen is taken from the vehicle with the box still on her head. They take her down into the cellar or basement, whatever you want to call it, a little space beneath the house. Remove her handcuffs, step her up onto this box, and then handcuff her to the ceiling. The box is then kicked from under her, so she falls and she's just like chained up and suspended in the air a couple inches from the ground. And old Cameron begins to beat her across the back. And the beating goes on for about 4 to 5 minutes. I forgot to mention that he also had stripped her before he started beating her. So anyway, the beating goes on, then it stops, and the couple then begins to have sex right over to the side immediately following the beatings. So Cameron had these very strange, intense bondage fantasies. And Janice was sick of it. Like, she literally was tired of playing into his fantasy. So they decided to go get a sex slave that he could take out the abusive fantasies on, and then those two would engage in sex immediately following. So at this time, her blindfold had slipped and she could see them having sex, and she's just like, what is going on? After they have sex, they take her down from the ceiling, lay her across a table, and they padlock her limbs to the table and put the box back onto her head. Poor Colleen has terrible anxiety. So at this point, she is like freaking out. The box was about 20 pounds, solid wood. It had no vents for air, so she's like literally breathing through like the tiniest cracks, barely getting fresh air, and it had literally no light whatsoever. So as any of us would, she is freaking out and thinking about how really no one knows where she is. She didn't tell her family where she was going. She did not tell anybody but the roommates that she was going. And like, she's like, what are the chances that they're gonna reach out and be like, hey, did she make it? Like, I don't know. She was just worried that nobody would know where she was. She would not be looked for. And this is all what's going through her head. But at the same time, she's thinking like, okay, maybe they're just going to keep me for a while and I'll be free to go. She was also told initially that she would be free to go after a while. She just had to obey and just do what they said, right? So day after day, she would be brought like a bedpan to use the bathroom. They would bring her a little bit of food, a little bit of water, and promised her that this was only temporary. One day she asked Cameron, like, why are you doing this? And he simply just was like, because I want to. He would assure her that she will be going home soon and just shut up and stick it out is pretty much his thing, right? Disgusting. So that's pretty much how her day would go. She would be fed a little, given a little water, brought the bedpan. They would torture her, and then they would have sex with each other. Now, part of the agreement that the couple had made was that he was not allowed to have sex with whoever they picked up. That person would just endure the physical abuse, and then Janice would slide in and take on the sexual part of it. Weird ass people. Look at that. Gorgeous. Anyway, back to the story. 2 weeks into captivity, Cameron comes down into the cellar and he brings this box that's like the size of a coffin. He's built this box with like chains inside and a hole that he like taped a fan to blow air into it so she can have some air. How considerate. He chains Colleen up and then he places her inside the box, and it's literally so small. There's no light whatsoever. It's just pitch black, and that's where they begin to keep her, hence the name The Girl in the Box. Fast forward to 8 months now into her captivity, and they come down into the cellar. Janice is like on crutches, looking like she is just looking a mess. She hands a paper to Cameron, and Cameron shoves the paper into Colleen's face, and he's like, read this. It's a newspaper article about the sex trafficking. And he tells her that this is what she's become a part of, that a lot of people are a part of this trafficking situation, police officers, doctors, lawyers, and that it was pretty much impossible to know who was a part. So if she ever went missing, she would most likely be found. And so the story was that homegirl had attempted to escape the company, which is what he referred to, the ring of slave owners, was notified and put on watch that one of the slaves had escaped. And so somebody quickly identified her, returned her to the company. She was badly beaten and tortured. This was just a way of him trying to brainwash her into being too afraid to run from them, obviously. Presented her with a contract, a slave contract that he wanted her to sign that would officially register her as his sex slave. And he said that the company was requiring that she be registered and all that, and she obliges, like she signs it. From there he tells her she's officially registered and that if she ever tried to run or anything, that she would be quickly identified and that he was not responsible for how gruesome the torture was, that it could be a group effort, that, you know, at that point they could do whatever they wanted to do to her and punish her for however they saw fit, and that he just advised her that, you know, he wouldn't think it would be a good idea for her to go on the run. Of course, hearing that, I mean, she don't think it's a good idea either. Now, from there, he does give her a little bit more freedom. He starts to allow her to come upstairs for an hour out of the day to do chores. I mean, it's not like he was inviting her up for coffee and tea and crumpets. She was just being brought up to perform chores, to clean and cook and look after the couple's young daughter. So she was their involuntary live-in nanny. They had covered the windows with tinfoil so no one could see in, like, at all. And they told her that the house was bugged by the company and that they can see and hear any and everything. So if she tried anything funny, they would be onto her immediately and she would suffer terrible punishment. She was really afraid to make any kind of false move. Oddly, the couple was very, very affectionate with their daughter. Like, they looked after her, they cared for her, they were very loving and doting parents. And that really let Colleen know that they had no regard for her life. Like, she really just didn't understand how they could be so terrible, so nasty, and so rude to her, yet so loving as parents. Like, girl, they really knew how to turn it off. That really proved to her that they had no regard for her life. I did not expect this eyeshadow to be red. I thought it was like a neon pink. So we'll see where this goes together. As this now sex slave, her daily routine would be she was kept in the box 23 hours of the day, and on the 24th hour she was brought up to prepare a meal for the family. She would have to sit on her knees near the table like a dog until they finished eating, and then they would say, okay, now clean up, and she would have to then wash the dishes and they would take her back downstairs. Now my thing is this. I'm the type of bitch that in those circumstances would have surely poisoned your food. Like, I'm so sorry, little baby, you might have just been a casualty of war, because... So as weeks go by, Janice begins to become jealous of Colleen. I don't know if it's because she figured her husband was becoming attracted to her, or maybe there were some conversations had between those two that made her start feeling away. But homegirl started to become jealous, and so she was really nasty and terrible to Colleen. She would often tell her that she had no value, that she was like a piece of furniture to them. She just was just terrible. One day she came up and she chopped off all of Colleen's hair, I guess in an effort to make her look less appealing to her man. It's like, girl, I don't want your little demented man. Your man crazy anyway, girl. Don't you hate them girls that think you want their man when their man really ain't nothing anyway? Like, girl, if he ain't good to you, why you think I want him?
I don't need your situation.
Of course, Colleen does not even respond to this. I mean, that's not gonna help her situation now. She's just like, okay, girl, all right. And because Janice was not like phasing her, she had to kick it up a notch. One day they calmed downstairs. This time, instead of their usual beat Colleen, sex each other routine, they take her upstairs to their personal bedroom, which they had not done this before. So she knew kind of like something is up. But I mean, what could she really do but ride it out, right? So they tie her down, face down to their bed, and they start to kiss each other. And she's just like, oh, great, they're just going to have sex on top of me. But instead, when Cameron really gets going, he penetrates her instead of his wife and rapes her. And this was actually the idea of Janice herself. Just an evil bitch. Like, evil. Now, a couple of months after that, the family moves to Mobile, Alabama, and the new house does not have the basement or cellar that they previously had, so they had to make alterations to keep Colleen. So they placed her box underneath their bed, and that's where she had to stay every day, 23 hours. One day, Janice is up there on the bed, and she begins to like cry and scream. And she's hearing all this commotion on top of the bed. Janice stops crying and a baby starts crying. So this girl's up there giving birth at the house on top of little Colleen. Oof, disrespect. After the baby is born, Cameron takes Colleen out of the box and tells her that he wants to introduce her to their new baby. And now this is the first time that they had shown her any kind of like compassion or just treat her like a human being at all. And so she enjoyed it. They let her stay out for a while, hold the baby, and then they quickly put her back inside the box. And she was like, girl, what's the tea? Y'all ain't never been nice to me before. This was the first sign of them being any type of nice to her in 18 months. So as more time is passing, Cameron is allowing Colleen to have a little bit more freedom. He began to let her like clean up in the yard, do yard work, garden. He even started to let her go jogging every day for 15 minutes. And he would let her know that, you know, if you ever try to talk to anybody or stop anybody or scream for help, you could very well be talking to someone who is a part of the company, and that will not go over well for you, my girl. So you might want to tread lightly on this jog and be back in 15 minutes. And if she was not back in 15 minutes, he said he would alert the company that she was on the run. They would find her, and then he was not responsible for whatever type of punishment they saw fit, of course. She didn't want to take those chances, so she would go on her jogs, keep her head down, and return. And I know it may sound crazy to you. They've had her at this point almost 2 years. So 2 years of brainwashing and being kept in captivity and told all of these powerful members of society are a part of this secret society, and that, you know, they're all in on this and there was nowhere to go, and that you could have your legs ripped off or anything by these crazy demented people. Like, so you got to kind of see where she's coming from. If you're wondering like, why didn't she just run away? I would have just started jogging and not stopped. Granted, I still stand by the fact that I would have put rat poisoning or some kind of raid, something is going in the food, girl, and it's taking all of y'all out. And then I would have just quietly went on my fake little jog and ran back to my house. Does that make what I just said any different than what I told y'all not to say? I don't know. So as time is going on, they're trusting Colleen more and more not to take off on them. They both return to work, because at first Cameron was working as like a lumber mill, and homegirl wasn't working at all. She was just at the house having babies. But I guess with how many babies they were having, she was like, you know what, I gotta go to work. We need some more money. So she returned to work, leaving Colleen to attend to the children while they were both at work. And Colleen actually enjoyed this. I mean, compared to how her daily life was before, she actually looked forward to and enjoyed taking care of the kids. The kids had no idea that some strange things was going on. They were young. They had not been exposed to the outside world, so they had nothing to compare this madness to. So now that Janice is working and away from the house, and like if she would go out on the weekends, Cameron, unbeknownst to Janice, of course, began to have private sessions with Colleen, and he would torture her alone, then rape her, and then he would have what he called cuddle time. Ain't that some shit? He would force her to lay on his chest. He would have these pillow talks with her about how he is falling in love with her, how he loves her, and he wants to marry her. He wants her to have his baby. All this craziness. And she one day was just like, you have 2 daughters now. What if somebody did this to your kid? How would you feel? And he tells her that he would kill them. So then she asks, like, I have a father. How do you think my dad feels? And he got so upset. Like, he immediately got up, pushed her off, put her in the box, shoved her back under the bed. And that was the end of that conversation. Of course, he never answered. He was pissed. One day, Cameron comes and tells Colleen that he had good news. He had put in a request for her to go home and visit her family with the company, and he was waiting on it to be approved. And if it was approved, she would be the first little slave that could go home and visit her family. And he was excited for her. He wanted her to see her family, but she just could not blow it because there would be dire consequences. Days after that, he comes and tells her that the company had approved his request, but she had to pass a test. He then goes and retrieves a huge barreled shotgun, has her sit on her knees, put the shotgun in her mouth, and he told her that she had to pull the trigger. That was the test. At this point, Colleen was like, bitch, I don't know if it's loaded or if it's not. But I really don't even care either way. Like, she didn't say this to him, but she was saying this in her head. She was just like, you know what? Give it to me. She didn't care one way or the other what happened after she pulled that trigger. She pulls the trigger and the gun just clicks. It's not loaded. And he tells her, okay, congratulations. You passed the test. He gets her dressed up really nice, combs the little bit of hair that she still has after Janet's scissor hands came through and tried to make her look bad. He has her go and tell the children and the neighbors actually that she was going home to visit her family, which she thought was weird, but she was just like, you know what? If I'm going to see my family, possibly, let me just, whatever happens, happens. So she tells people goodbye and she gets in the car with him. He drives her all the way to her old neighborhood, pulls her around back of her father's house, and there's a trailer parked behind it. He tells her that that is the company set up, that they have bugged her dad's house, that they've been watching it. They have 24-hour surveillance. That's the only reason she's able to go visit. And if anything seems suspicious or anything happens, they won't hesitate to kill her family. And she just better be on her best behavior. The script was that he was her fiance, that they were happy, and his name was Mike. So they go in, she greets her family. They're like, oh my God, girl, where you been? And she's just like, oh, I've just been happy with my fiance, Mike. And Mike is like, that's me. Hello, guys. Can't wait to see you at the wedding. After a couple minutes, Mike fakes an emergency and just like, gotta go. I'll be back to pick you up after the weekend because the agreement was for her to stay the whole weekend. She is catching up with her sisters, but her family notices like she's different. She's not as communicative as she once was. She's not the chatterbox that she once was. She's standoffish. She's short with her answers. She's just strange. She stayed up all night talking with her sister, and she got to the point where she really wanted to tell her sister the truth, but she was just too afraid to. She just was like, you know what, it's not worth my family's safety, which she was told, of course, that they would be harmed. And so she just didn't want to risk it. The very next morning, less than 24 hours after she arrived, Cameron calls and tells her that he's on his way and he'll be there in 10 minutes. So she's like, I thought you said I could stay the whole weekend. And he's like, I did, but I changed my mind. I'm on my way, get your stuff. The family thought that was kind of weird, but they just thought he was controlling and probably an asshole. When he got back, he came in, he spoke to the family for a while, and they noticed that he was weird. They were like, you know what? This is not her type. He's a strange fruit. But When he arrived, she seemed very happy. She lit up to see him. She even took this picture with him that showed like how happy she looked with him and how normal she looked with him, which this is the thing. Some accounts say that she was told to make it look like we are an engaged couple and you're happy and all of that. And then there are other reports that said that she had developed Stockholm syndrome by now, and that she was happy to see him. Oddly, as it sounds to us, Stockholm syndrome is a thing. It is a thing, and it is not a thing that you and I probably understand. Some things you don't understand unless you've been through it. They started to question the couple about where they lived, if they could come visit, send mail, call, and Mike/Cameron had an answer for everything. Like, it was like, oh, we'll give you an address, but we're about to move anyway, so and we'll give you a call and we'll make sure that we come around more. So they really didn't press, because then they started to think that maybe she was in a cult, and they were like, you know what, if we press too hard, we probably will never see her again, so let's just not give them too much. Colleen said her goodbyes, and then they got into his car and left. And the family didn't even bother to get the license plate when they drove off. Like, they let them leave with nothing. Nothing but a fake name, a fake story, and just... ugh. But her dad did say later that he regretted that a lot. So, I mean... sir, you should have. Not to add insult to injury, but yeah, sir, you should have. My eye is pink, but it's not itchy. It's not feeling irritated, but look at this. Like, I don't know if you can see that it's very pink and red here. I just hope that it does not fall out, because I have somewhere to go, and I just don't have time. Colleen is kind of on a high, so to speak, like when she gets back to the house. I mean, as much as she could be as a sex slave, she's on a high, she's excited, but unfortunately he throws her right back into the box immediately. And literally for the next 3 years, she is taken out very rarely. It's like how she was when she first got there, I guess, because he knew, like, he didn't want her to feel too comfortable or start to think like maybe I can run away. He didn't want her having none of those thoughts, so he, I guess, tried to weaken her mental state even further to just make sure she wasn't gonna try nothing. Colleen began to get kind of sick. Well, not kind of sick, very sick. She was dehydrated. She was nocturnal. The girl wasn't getting much sunlight. She wasn't being fed much. And she's now been in their possession for 6 years. The last 3 being spent under that bed. She's starting to hallucinate and like really lose it. And one day the couple comes upstairs. Don't try to clock me for drawing these on. I had them. If you rewind back to the beginning of the video, I had them at the start of the video. I'm just putting them back, okay? Putting them back because they have been buried. Try me not. This one particular day, they come up and they get Colleen, remove her from the box, and they're like, happy birthday. Oh my God, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. They're singing her happy birthday, dragging her to the kitchen, and she's like, girl, what? Like, I done had 6 birthdays since I've been here. How in the hell are y'all celebrating now after all these days? Which that's not what she said, but you know, that's what she was thinking, like, what? In the kitchen, there's cake, and ironically, they present her with a Bible as her birthday gift. They engrave it with their actual names, and they're just like, happy birthday, girl. And from that day forward, they began like taking her out again regularly and having Bible study. And the Bible study was mostly just with Janice. Janice would come get her for Bible study, and they would sit around on the floor and read the Bible wearing prayer caps, which were just skull caps, like beanies. And even with Colleen's very fragile mental state, like, she knew this was stupid. I mean, of course she went along with it, because what other choice did she have? Janice had become more and more like increasingly compassionate toward Colleen, and she thought it was weird, but she just rolled with it because, you know, it was nice not to have a bitch chopping off your hair and being crazy. And they began to speak about her life prior to them kidnapping her, and like how she'll go to church with her family every Sunday. And she just really helped Colleen to show Janice like that she's a human being. Like, she began to see her as a person versus a piece of furniture. And, you know, she was more compassionate towards her. One day during these talks, Janice reveals to Colleen that Cameron has plans to abduct more women. And Colleen could see that Janice was not with it. Like, her body language, the way she talked about it, told Colleen like Janice kind of wasn't down with this. She was kind of having a change of heart. Cameron started making preparations for these new women that they were going to add. And so he had Colleen go out back and start digging a ditch, and he was telling her like, this is going to be a dungeon when I get through, and I'm going to have all these extra women, and you're going to train them. We're going to promote you in the sex slave totem pole, I guess, and you'll have more freedoms and be in charge of getting these girls to where you are today, right? She even was taken out to get a job. They allowed her to work as a maid in one of the local motels. Like, by this time, she was 7 years in, and she just did not even question whether or not this was the truth about the company and the sex slave trade and all that. She had given up on trying to escape. She just thought this was her life, and it was just best to just go with it. So she was working as this maid every day. One day, Janice shows up at her job, and she's just like, look, we need to have a chat. And Colleen is like, okay, what's up? What's the tea, sis? Janice tells her that everything is a lie. The company is a lie. They're not part of the company, and that she needs to go home to her family, and this is over. And so Colleen is like, girl, what? Like, I've been with you guys for 7 years believing this, and you're just gonna pop in and tell me it's a lie? She felt kind of stupid for even believing it when Janice broke it all down, and she was just like, okay, so what's the plan? So Janice told her that she bought her a bus ticket home, and that she was going to take her back to the house to pack up all of her things and drop her off at the bus station. She could just go, don't look back, none of that. So that's what they do. She takes her home, she packs up all of her belongings, drops off at the bus station, and Colleen is just sitting there like, is this the best thing to do? Like, what if she's trying to set me up? Which I can get why she would question that, because, you know, Janice ain't so trustworthy. So right before her bus pulls up, she gets on the phone and she calls Cameron, and she tells him like, I'm going home. I know you lied about everything. And he starts to cry, like he's bawling his eyes out, begging her to stay, telling her he loves her, he needs her, please don't leave. And she's just like, deuces. She hangs up the phone like a boss ass bitch, okay? If you are thinking that Janice had this change of heart because of her newfound love for Jesus, like I was, we were wrong. At the 7-year mark, Cameron had a conversation with Janice and told her, look, I want to take her on as my second wife. I want her to join our union. She's going to be on the level with you. We're going to get these other girls, and then they're going to be like our sex slaves, and we're just going to expand this thing. And Janice was not with it. She was still jealous of Colleen, and she was like, I ain't with this. Like, I'm done. I'm done here. And that's what led her to show up at Colleen's job and like free her. So it wasn't her newfound Christianity. Terrible. At the trial, Janice testifies against her husband. She drops the bomb that Colleen was not the first girl they picked up, that the first girl they picked up they kept for a while and then they ended up killing, and that it was all Cameron's idea because he said dead people don't talk. And when she said that, he said actually in his trial out loud, I should have killed her too, meaning Colleen, because, or maybe he meant Janice. I don't know, but that's what he said. I should have killed her too, which did not help him out because he ended up receiving 104 years in prison. He's actually eligible for parole in the year 2022, which is right around the corner. Homeboy might be back on the streets. His wife, Janice, received immunity in return for her testifying against her husband, and she didn't serve any time. Homegirl got to walk free. Janice and Colleen both changed their names in order to like finish their life out. They didn't want to move out of California. So they changed their names. They don't have any contact with each other whatsoever. They're both just out trying to live their best life And that is pretty much it for this story. If you liked it, don't forget to give a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. You know, it really helps me out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.